Wednesday, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great week. And I just wanted to say I'm proud of everyone who did yesterday's work. If you haven't finished that yet, there's still time. Get that in. It was a couple of videos and an article. Just read the article, watch the videos, and just shoot me a half-page summary on the document I posted in Google Classroom with your thoughts on what you watched in the videos and on that summary. So continuing with the Holocaust. I wanted to talk about a little bit, again, just like I did yesterday, create a video for you all for you to watch that kind of does an overview of what you're going to be doing tomorrow, Thursday, today when you're watching it, for your assignment for this week. So we are getting to really like the last part of the Holocaust topic. So at this point in the Holocaust, we're no longer talking about how Hitler rose to power. We're not talking about the different groups that were targeted. We are no longer talking about the Jewish people being that scapegoat to Hitler and to Germany. We are no longer talking about the death camps and the concentration camps and the ghettos and the deportation and those cattle cars. We're done with that portion of it. And so at this point of the Holocaust, what we talk about, that tail end of it, is looking at examples and types of Jewish resistance. And so what you guys are going to be doing, you have two things for me to do today. So they're on the same document. So I tried to keep it a little streamlined, a little easier so we didn't have to toggle through so many documents. And sometimes it's a little confusing to maneuver around Google Classroom for some of us. So you are going to respond, and I'm just pulling it up here so I can read it to you. The first thing I want you guys to do is to respond to a journal prompt for me. And so the journal prompt, and I'm going to respond back and give you, we're going to have kind of a virtual conversation here with the journal prompt, but just kind of the how you're doing, how are things, how is life under stay home order and quarantine at home with their families. How has virtual learning been for this week for you? Not just necessarily my class, but just in general, all of your classes, but then also looking at my class specifically. How has this week gone compared to other weeks? Pros and cons, anything that you may have struggled with, anything that you need for resources wise, if you want me to give you extra material, anything like that. And then of course, I wanted to have a bullet point talking about, what's going on, this COVID-19, how looking at both the state level and then as well as the federal level, because there's a lot of different things going on with Governor Whitmer and just the state of Michigan. And you've been hearing probably on the news about different states and the different states, especially even like in, near us in Ohio and Illinois and Indiana. So some of our neighboring states, what their governors are doing, but then, Florida and some of the southern states, what their governors are doing. So I want you to kind of think about what you've been hearing on the news, if at all, or even just conversations at home or anything you've been reading online about how the state is reacting and decisions that are being made at the state level. But then I also want you to think about President Trump and federal level decisions and things that are happening on that level. So 4 bullets for our journal prompt. So those are kind of just the topics for that. But the other assignment, so it's going to be one document. Top half is the journal prompt, and then the bottom half is our End of Holocaust web quest. So you're still going to the National History Museum. That museum is in DC, so some of you may have been to it in 8th grade. They have an amazing education component to their website, and so that's what I've been using for our web quest. So you're going to continue, you're just going to do that. And so this point in the Holocaust, what we would be talking about, even if we were in class, we would be looking at Jewish resistance. So are there examples? And this is one of the many questions I usually get when I teach the Holocaust is, did the Jewish prisoners, did any of, the POWs who were prisoners, any of the people who were forced to be in these camps, did they ever try to resist? Did they ever look at their people and the captors and, the SS guards and say, no, I'm not doing that? No. Did they steal food? Did they hide food? Did they ever try to escape? There are far more prisoners than there are guards at any of these camps at any one time. So did that ever happen? And the quick answer to that is yes, it did. And that's kind of what we're looking at in the next couple weeks here. So really the next, today, really 3 or 4 like class periods, the Tuesday, Thursday class periods. We're going to be looking at Jewish resistance. We're also going to look at liberation. Okay, so in the book Night, when you guys read that in March, you read about how Ellie and his dad and other prisoners who were in camps with them, how they, in their own ways, resisted. Maybe by not crying, or maybe by eating some food or not eating, maybe some passive resistance. So those are examples of resistance. But there are other examples as well. And so we're going to look at some other camps. So far, we've really focused on Auschwitz, which is really one of the most notorious death camps. We're going to look at another one next week called Sobibor, and we'll get to that. So Jewish resistance. But then now we need to look at the liberation, because towards the end of the Holocaust, as when we talked about the war, back when we were together, we were still finishing that up. And when we talked about war in Europe, we had the Soviets coming in from the east towards Berlin, and then you had the Americans and the British soldiers coming in from the west, and they were all trying to, their goal was to get to Berlin and to surround Hitler and to try to defeat him. And so as these soldiers are getting closer to Berlin, they are quite literally stumbling upon these camps. They don't know that they're there. They were very well hidden from the soldiers and just many times people. And so they would stumble upon them. And so you guys read about how Ellie and his dad had to march to different camps and from one camp to another. And when that occurred was because the SS soldiers knew that troops, whether they be Russian troops or American or British troops, that they were getting close to the camp. And so we're getting towards that liberation where they don't want, these SS, they don't want to have their camps found with prisoners full of them. And so what they would do is they would try to destroy as much of the evidence as possible and get as many of the people to the next closest camp and move them. And so we read about that in our book. And so you're going to learn a little bit about that in the web quest that you do today. And then getting towards the end, so we have liberation, more looking at some survivors, and I've been trying to give you some video clips, maybe even like 1 or 2 a week, and more. We're going to have more of them as we go through the last couple weeks here of survivor stories, because they're so powerful, you guys, to listen to. I mean, it's one thing for me to tell you like, oh yeah, this happened in the Holocaust, these events occurred, people endured these things, but for me to just tell you what I know, and then for you to actually hear like a firsthand account of someone and that person in their own words, explaining to you and describing to you what they had to endure, it's very powerful. So we're going to have more of those survivor stories. And then kind of that last little bit of the Holocaust that we really explore and we learn about are the Nuremberg trials. Now, if you fast forward a couple weeks ago, month ago-ish, we talked about the beginning of the Holocaust. And prior to the Holocaust, they had the Nuremberg laws. Now, those laws were things that said Jewish people have to wear that yellow Star of David on them. They had to go and they couldn't go to like restaurants. They couldn't go to parks. They had to follow certain laws. They were no longer citizens. They couldn't get married to a German person. So there were a lot of laws that Jewish people had to follow at the end of the war. And after these camps are liberated, what ends up happening are people who are caught, these SS and these kind of masterminds behind the final solution, they are in Hitler's top advisors and his top people who are still alive at this point and who haven't escaped. They're wound up and they are actually tried, and the trials that they're being put under are it's the Nuremberg trials. They're being tried for crimes against humanity, murder, all of these horrible atrocities that they have performed over the last, decade, really. And so we're going to explore that and learn a little bit about the Nuremberg trials and what happened and the outcome of those as well. So this web quest is really just an opportunity for you to kind of explore and dabble in a little bit these topics that over the next 3 or 4 class periods here in the next week or two, we are going to go into a little bit deeper and get some more examples and stories about that. So that's kind of I was trying to keep it short, but you know me. So it's kind of a short overview of kind of our last part of the Holocaust here that we'll be studying together, and overview of what we're going to do today. So one more time, make sure we all know this. There is a document, like an assignment. It's a Google Doc that I have, and I've made a copy for each of you. So that's posted in our classroom. The top part is the journal prompt. So there are 4 bullets that I want you to respond to. And then the last half of the document assignment is the web quest. 16 questions talking about those last components of the Holocaust that we will be exploring in these next couple weeks, okay? So our communication today is going to be in that journal response. So that's kind of our back and forth communication that we're going to have. We're not doing a Zoom today. So I have this video and then just that one assignment. So that's all I have for you all today. I hope you guys, get those done. If you didn't get Tuesdays done, try to crank that out today too, or if you weren't quite finished with it, get that in, post that in so I can mark you down that you completed it. And you guys have a great weekend, okay? And we will be back together next week. All right, bye. And shoot me an email if you guys have any questions, concerns, need anything. You guys know I'm only an email or a remind message away. I can contact you, okay? All right, bye.